Imagine for a second that you could, physically pull back a curtain on history.
Okay.
Just reach out, grab this heavy fabric, and slide it aside to see the backstage area of the most famous life ever lived.
Hmm.
What do you think you'd see?
That's a great image. Because usually when we think about Jesus, we focus on the highlight reel, right?
Exactly.
The big blockbuster moments, feeding the 5,000, walking on water, all this stuff where the spotlight was fully on.
The public record. But today, we're doing something a little different. We're looking at a breakdown of just one short verse, Mark 1.35.
And the research we're looking at suggests this one verse is basically that curtain being pulled back.
It's an invitation to see the hidden life, the stuff that happened when the crowds weren't there and the disciples were, well, fast asleep.
And we should be clear, this isn't just about, a historical footnote. The material frames this as a masterclass in survival, really. We're analyzing a rhythm of life that connects solitude directly to strength.
And specifically how that applies to us right now. Because let's be honest, solitude feels like a luxury item in the modern world.
It really does.
My phone's always buzzing, my watch is tapping my wrist. So the mission for this deep dive is to unpack why this ancient rhythm might be the critical missing piece for the modern believer who just feels scattered.
Scattered is the perfect word. And it brings us right to the text. The verse starts, rising very early before dawn, Jesus left. It sounds so simple.
Yeah, morning routine.
But when you dig into the context that our material provides, that one simple action reveals itself as a radical, almost countercultural strategic decision.
Rising very early before dawn. I mean, I read that and part of me just groans. I'm thinking about my alarm clock.
And how cold the floor is.
Yes, it just feels like a chore.
And that's a natural reaction. It shows the discipline. But the goal here isn't to say Jesus was an early riser, so I have to join the 5 a.m. club. That completely misses the point.
So what is the point?
The text is arguing something much deeper. It's framing this not as a productivity hack, but as a deliberate strategy for spiritual power. It's not about the clock. It's about the priority.
Okay, let's unpack that. Because to get why this was such a big deal, we have to look at what happened the day before.
Right.
The research paints this picture of the previous day that makes waking up early seem almost masochistic.
It really does seem that way on the surface.
Yeah.
It was arguably one of the most exhausting days of ministry recorded in the Gospels. It wasn't just a casual Tuesday.
Okay, so let's walk through this day before. It starts in the synagogue. He's teaching.
Right, but not just chatting. The text says he taught with authority. That implies a level of, mental and spiritual energy that is just draining.
You're pouring yourself out.
Exactly. And then, right in the middle of that, a man with an unclean spirit interrupts everything.
So now you've got a spiritual confrontation. High drama, high adrenaline.
And the day is just getting started. He leaves, probably hoping for a break, goes to Simon Peter's house, and finds Peter's mother-in-law is sick with a high fever.
So he heals her. No break. No off switch.
But here's the part that really stood out to me. It says, at sundown. Usually sundown is when you clock out, right?
Shut your feet up, you're done.
But the text says, they brought to him all who were sick or oppressed by demons. And Mark adds this one detail. The whole town was gathered together at the door.
Can you just visualize that? The whole town, not a polite line.
No, this is a desperate, crushing mob of humanity.
Mm-hmm.
People in pain, crying, children, the smell, the noise,
Mm-hmm.
all of it pressing in on that one door.
And he healed them, one by one.
Think about the physical toll. We know from other places that when Jesus healed, power went out from him. So by the time that crowd finally left, late that night, he must have just wrecked.
I think anyone listening can relate to that feeling of being poured out. You get home from work or dealing with the kids and you just crash. You're just done.
Precisely. And that's where the surprise of Mark 1.35 kicks in. Humanly speaking, Jesus had every reason to sleep in. The ultimate excuse.
I would have 100% hit the snooze button, and I would have felt righteous doing it. Self-care,
And no one would have blamed him. But this is where the story pivots. Mark tells us that while it was still dark, he got up. Instead of choosing rest for his body, he chose prayer.
Okay, but let me play devil's advocate here. Isn't that a little irresponsible? I mean, the needs didn't stop. By leaving, wasn't he abandoning the people who needed him?
That is the million-dollar question. And it forces us to redefine what work actually is. He didn't withdraw to escape responsibility. He wasn't tired of people.
So what was it?
He withdrew to commune with his Father because he knew he had nothing left to give them if he didn't.
So it wasn't an escape from duty. It was refueling for duty.
Exactly. In that moment of depletion, he needed something sleep couldn't provide. He needed to recalibrate. If he stayed and kept working on empty, he just becomes a tired social worker. This way, he remains the Messiah.
He was plugging back into the power source. But the material calls this a rhythm, so this wasn't just a one-off panic move.
No, not at all. This was a habit. We see him praying early in the morning, but also late at night, sometimes for entire nights.
So we've got early dawn and late night. The notes call these the sacred margins of the day. I really like that phrase. But why those times? Why not, 2 p.m.?
Well, think about it like signal-to-noise ratio. The margins of the day before the world wakes up or after it's gone to sleep are when the noise is at its absolute lowest.
Static dies down.
Right. People are quiet. The demands are quiet. Expectations loosen their grip. Trying to do this at 2 p.m. for us is like trying to pray in a busy office. You're just fighting a losing battle with distraction.
That's true. There's a different quality to the air at 5 a.m. or midnight. It's less cluttered.
And the research argues these times are when we aren't performing for anyone. It's about creating a perimeter around your soul before the invasion of the day begins.
I can hear people listening right now thinking, okay, but I am not a morning person. Or maybe I have 3 kids, my morning is pure chaos. The material actually addresses this, doesn't it?
It does, and it's a great point. It asks, are you an early bird or a night owl? And the conclusion is, it doesn't matter.
Oh, thank goodness.
Not at all. It's not prescribing a time of day, it's prescribing a spiritual discipline. The real question isn't when you are awake, it's what do you do with those moments when no one else is around?
That hits home. Because I can be awake at 4 a.m. and just be scrolling on my phone.
And that's filling the silence with digital noise, which is the opposite of a sacred margin.
We'll get back to the phone in a second. But first, the theology here is huge. Why did Jesus, the Son of God, need to do this?
That's the anchor of the whole thing.
I mean, if anyone had a battery pack that didn't need recharging, it would be him. He's divine.
This gets into the mystery of the incarnation. The material is clear. Even though he's the Son of God, he lived in complete dependence on the Father. He wasn't operating on some kind of God mode cheat.
Complete dependence. So he didn't just have power, he received power.
Exactly. Prayer wasn't an add-on to his ministry. It was the source of it.
Wow, that reframes everything. We think of prayer as something we do before the work, or to ask God to bless the work we've already planned.
But this shows the prayer is the lifeline. Think about the vine and the branches metaphor. Apart from me, you can do nothing. He lived that out first.
Right.
He had to stay connected to the Father to get wisdom and strength.
So when we see him healing that crowd, that public power flowed directly from the private communion he had in the dark that morning.
Precisely. Public power flowed from private communion.
Yeah.
You can't bypass the process. It was the engine room of his entire ministry.
Which brings us to the tough part, the so what for us. Because we aren't first century preachers, we have Wi-Fi and deadlines.
Right. And this is where the notes pivot hard to the modern Christian. It moves from analysis to a mirror.
And it asks some uncomfortable questions. The crowd at the door for Jesus was literal. What's our crowd today?
Today, the crowd is in your pocket. It's the notification.
For the early risers, you wake up. What's the very first thing that claims your attention?
Statistics say for most people, it's the phone. Within minutes. And just like that, your margin is gone. You've let the world in.
It's an invasion, and I'll admit it, my hand automatically goes for the phone. It's a reflex. I tell myself I'm just checking the time.
But then you see an email subject line, and boom, your cortisol spikes. The sacred margin that was supposed to settle your soul is now the time you ramp up your anxiety.
And for the night owls, it's the same, right?
Yeah.
Netflix, doom scrolling, replaying conversations from the day.
Oh, the replay. Lying in bed thinking, why did I say that?
Yep.
And the material makes a firm point here. None of these things are evil. A phone isn't a sin, but they act as a displacement. They push out the one thing that truly sustains you.
It's the opportunity cost. It's not that the news is bad, it's that it's taking up the limited bandwidth that was meant for communion.
Which leads to the biggest conflict for the modern believer. Productivity versus intimacy. That is the idol of our age.
Okay, let's go there. We live in a world that worships productivity. If you aren't producing, you don't matter.
We do. The notes say we are diligent in earthly matters. We get up early to work, to study, to strive. Why? Because the world teaches us that productivity equals security.
If I do more, I'll be safe. If I clear my inbox, I'll finally have peace.
Exactly. But Jesus shows us this counterintuitive truth, that intimacy with the Father must come before activity for God.
That is so backwards to how my brain works. My brain says, do the work, get the results, then you can rest.
But the warning here is stark. Without that communion, even good work becomes empty and exhausting.
Empty and exhausting. That explains so much of modern burnout, doesn't it? We're doing good things, serving at church, raising kids, but we feel hollow.
We feel hollow because we're trying to be the vine ourselves. We're
Yeah.
trying to generate our own power. And humans just, we leak. We run dry.
So by skipping that time in the margins, we're not just breaking a rule, we are actively sabotaging our own ability to function.
Yes, we're cutting off the supply line. If you bypass that communion to get a 30-minute head start on your emails, you are making a terrible trade. You are trading power for mere activity.
You're trading power for activity. That's heavy. It's like pushing a car because you're too busy to stop for gas.
That is a perfect analogy. You're working harder, sweating more, and making less progress. And Jesus, who had the most important mission in history, refused to push the car. He stopped for gas. Every single time.
So we've looked at the example, the theology, and the modern prep. How do we move forward? What's the invitation here?
The invitation is simple, but it does take some grit. It's to set apart time to be alone with God.
Set apart. What does that look like practically?
It means being intentional, guarding it. It might mean putting your phone in another room before you go to bed. It might mean waking up 20 minutes earlier, not to work, but just to sit.
And if I do that tomorrow, am I going to have some magical heavens opening experience?
I'm so glad you asked that because this is where people quit. The answer is no, probably not. The material is very realistic about this. It says you may not feel immediate results.
That is so important to hear because sometimes you pray and you just feel tired and you think, well, that didn't work.
Exactly. But the goal isn't an emotional high. The goal is faithfulness in hidden prayer. It's about the rooting process.
Like a tree, you don't see the roots growing day to day.
Right. And the result is becoming rooted, steady, and filled with power. And this is key. It's a power that comes not from striving, but from being with the Father.
Not from striving. That is the antidote to the modern condition right there.
Yeah.
We are all striving so hard, white-knuckling our way through life.
We are. And this deep dive is saying, you can stop. Look at Jesus. He didn't strive. He received. He guarded time with the Father like it was his lifeblood.
Dude, it was.
It was. And the material concludes with this really strong statement. If the Son of God rose early to pray, then prayer is not optional for the believer. It is essential.
It kind of takes away all our excuses. I'm too busy. Well, were you busier than Jesus on the day the whole town was at his door?
It's a humbling comparison, but it's meant to be an encouraging one. An invitation to a better way of living.
So, wherever you are in your day, the call to action is the same. Find your margin. Fight for it.
Find your margin, turn off the noise, and seek his face.
And as we wrap up, we want to leave you with one last thought. We talked about power and about Jesus choosing dependence.
Right.
So here's the question to carry with you. If the Son of God, who had all the power, felt that prayer was essential rather than optional, what does that say about our own reliance on our own strength?
It's a terrifying and liberating question.
Are we trying to operate our lives on a power source that even Jesus didn't use? Are we trying to be stronger than God?
That's something to sit with in the quiet.
Absolutely. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. Go find some silence. We'll see you next time.